Hello, my name is Sidney Goldstein. I'm author of the Nitty Gritty Basketball series, which includes the Basketball Coach's Bible, the Basketball Player's Bible, and the 7 mini guides. Like the books, this video series is about fundamentals. It's a step back to the basics and a step forward to improve training methods. It's a place to start and to return again and again. No matter what your coaching level, age, or sex, the fundamentals do not change. You'll reap great rewards by recognizing, practicing, and applying them to your situation. Coaches and players need to understand the scope of our shooting videos before each detail. I cover these skills in each video. These are the keys to improvement. Here are some things that you need to do or avoid in practice. These major shooting problems will be resolved by the methods shown in these videos. I cover shooting in 3 videos: basketball shooting 1, 2, and 3. Each video is a continuation of the other. 1 is not for beginners and 3 is not for pros. Each video covers skills and exercises needed by players at every level. Most players in these videos are at the college level. Shooting 1 covers the technique needed for every type of shot. Technique not only improves the shot, but also makes players more consistent from the 3-foot line, the foul line, or the 3-point line. Technique is the key to improvement. Repetition with improper technique is the nemesis. Shooting 2 covers layups, jump and hook shots, fake and pivot routines needed for drives and moves to the basket, as well as a simple way to practice shooting. Players learn how to apply technique without pressure. Perform these drills and exercises slowly, so players can ease into the agility needed to drive to the basket or perform fancy moves anywhere on the court. Shooting 3 covers foul shooting, multiple skill shooting drills, and shooting under pressure. Foul shooting involves working at all 3 shooting levels, so a player can both better prepare, execute, and focus at the line. Multiple skill drills involve passing, cutting, timing, and more, while shooting a layup or usually a short shot. These include many continuous motion drills that condition players. Finally, I present game-level drills where players shoot under extreme pressure. These keys to teaching are for both coaches and players. To improve or maintain shooting consistency, learn the entire series of steps. Don't substitute repetition in the place of knowledge. There are 3 distinct levels at which shooting must be taught: technique, practice, and game level. By far, the most important level is technique, or body mechanics, because without better technique, shooting will not improve. Practice shots and moves from 1 to 3 feet first. Longer shots, even from the foul line, can destroy technique. Watch players like a hawk for technique problems and improper practice. Don't put practice on autopilot. I want to say more about practice. All players want to shoot better. If you provide the means, they will follow. Ask a skeptic to try these newfangled methods for a few weeks. Prepare a special program for each player based on his or her ability. Make sure shooting around without purpose does not occur in your practice. Maybe your biggest job, the one that will come with the greatest reward, is to get players to practice sensibly on their own. Sensible practice yields incredible improvement that you may never have thought possible. Be patient. I'm going through a season or more of shooting drills and exercises in these 3 videos. You can't rush learning by skipping steps. Each practice also is not a clinic where you can cover 10 steps of technique. Players have difficulty with 1 or 2 initially. Add additional drills 1 at a time. However, continue working on technique drills every day for a minute or 2 throughout the season. If you see a player shooting with poor technique, Don't tell him or her how to do it right. Instead, guide them back to the technique level drill that will resolve the problem. Combining or mixing up the 3 levels is harmful for several reasons. 1, technique is performed slowly with thought. 2, regular shots are quick without thought. Thinking alters the shot in many ways, all bad. If a player wants to shoot with either hand, then he or she has twice as much to practice. No such thing as shooting with the right hand on the right side, left on the left. Players must learn to shoot with either hand on either side of the basket, especially for short shots and drives. The alternative, which is the rule now rather than the exception, is that players do not learn the agility to do it either way. However, they can start to learn in about 15 minutes. Here are major shooting problems encountered with players from elementary school to the pros. The most prevalent and most difficult shooting problem is tight wrists, because shooting is just a flick of the wrist. Players with tight wrists will stand out like sore thumbs from the start. Initially, all players will have difficulty doing the many wrist exercises for more than a minute at a time, so schedule them frequently throughout the practice. These exercises are critical not only for improvement, but also to maintain shot consistency. The next biggest problem you will notice even before you start: players shooting the ball with arms bent, often releasing it above and in front of their nose, hence the term nose shooting. Why is this a problem? Simple. These players can't shoot when covered closely. Usually, they don't even try unless they have 1 to 2 yards of free space around them. And this problem can be altered in a day, permanently cured in a few weeks. Number 3 on the problem list is poor handling of the ball. Why is this so important? The ball goes off the fingertips, actually the finger ends. The more you use the tips, the more control you have. Many players, even pros, touch the ball improperly or not the best way. The best way gives you more control. Without this control, practice is for naught. The lack of ability to pivot well affects everything done on the court. Obvious effects in the shooting area include all moves and driving to the basket. Now, a move does not need to be a 360-degree behind-the-back dunk. A play as simple as rebounding and going up for the shot involves pivoting. Not only does good pivoting prevent walking violations, but also allows quicker moves, better drives, and even smarter defensive movement. Poor practice techniques not only prevent improvement, but usually make players worse. Sensible practice yields tremendous improvement more rapidly than you would expect. Unfortunately, players need help from you. They can't do it on their own. Never let a player practice improperly in your presence. Some examples are dribbling in any shooting drill with the head down, shooting outside their range, shooting around without purpose, and most importantly, missing any shot within 3 feet of the basket. Bug players to keep their heads up and to practice short first. Make sure they practice routines that you have given them. Keep track of every short shot missed, except for the technique drills from the second a player enters the gym to when they leave. Small or young players often have difficulty shooting with proper technique. Keep them shooting close to the basket, 1 to 3 feet maximum. Use a proportionally smaller ball or lower basket if possible. Remember, kids grow up quickly and will soon have the strength to shoot properly. However, habits, good and bad, stay with them. Make sure the habits are good ones.
Good. That's a big improvement.
This video, Basketball Shooting 1, covers shooting technique. Players at every level, especially pros, need to work on technique drills every day, even if it's only for a minute. I overdo all technique level drills so each player reaps maximum benefits. Let's start at the end for a minute, where you want to take players before we show how to get there. Think of a shot as a flick of the wrist, even though you use your body as well. The ball is handled with the fingertips, hands clawed, fingers spread apart. The arms are fully extended straight overhead on the shot. The wrist is bent back at least 90 degrees. A properly released shot has backspin, and is released upward, has a good arc, not shot on the line. After practicing the methods in this video, a player may not have a picture-perfect shot. However, the methods presented here work 100% of the time with 100% of players. You should see dramatic improvement in every case. I did. Here are the technique categories in this video. Touch. Touch is how the hand contacts the ball. This allows control. Release. Release is wrist motion. A shot is a flick of the wrist as opposed to a shot put using the arms. Body alignment. Body alignment involves squaring shoulders to the shot direction as well as forcing the arms into the best position. Extension. Extension means extending the arms directly overhead to the maximum before releasing the ball. Problem diagnosis. In the problem diagnosis section, we closely look at the technique of several players. Now let's cover each topic in more detail. Touch determines how well you control the ball. The hand needs to be shaped like a claw, fingers spread apart. Your fingertips or ends control the shot. The hands need to be clawed, fingers spread apart to best handle and shoot the ball. Ask players to make a growling sound as they make a claw. Check to make sure the fingers are spread apart and the hand is in the shape of a claw in all technique drills. Instruct players to pick up the ball with their claws. Try to get the finger ends rather than the tips or pads on the ball. Instruct players to tightly hold the ball. Then explain that they control the ball with the finger ends only. This will help them shoot, dribble, and pass better. You can mention that Pete Maravich went to sleep holding the ball. However, they may not be real impressed. Use every practice second that a player listens as touch time. Just say touch, meaning to hold the ball with the finger ends while you're giving instructions for any drill or exercise. If a player has fingernails, he or she will have difficulty shooting, dribbling, passing, and especially catching the ball. This leads to jammed fingers and fumbled catches because catching with the palms is a difficult task. Check fingernails to avoid this problem. These drills not only help with touch, but also with ball handling, moves, loose balls, rebounding, defense, and so on. Don't forget the main purpose of the drill, touch. So you will need to keep yelling touch or finger ends so players overdo the touch. In grab drills, players set up in twos facing each other about 1 to 3 feet apart. One player holds the ball with the finger ends, the other grabs with the finger ends. Initially, players should concentrate on touch. Make sure they overdo it. Look for the clawed hand, fingers spread apart. Move the hands and fingers into the position you want. Don't expect or require players to grab the ball this way in a game. However, these exercises improve snagging of rebounds, passes, and loose balls, as well as help with shooting, passing, and dribbling. In basketball jargon, you are giving players better hands. The first drill is called grab middle. Other grab drills include grab high and grab low. The grab high simulates rebounding. Make sure older players pivot and rip the ball away. Players will have difficulty with this because they need to rip the ball away with their entire body, not just the arms. The grab low drill is like picking up a loose ball. Again, you want players grabbing, pulling the ball, and pivoting away like they just picked up a loose ball. The move ball drill forces players to move the ball 3 ways. 1, side to side. 2, up and down. 3, out and back. Don't allow players to move their bodies in this drill, only the arms. This is great for offensive ball movement in all tight situations, as well as great practice for all moves and fakes. The defense in this drill must go after the ball but cannot foul. Any touch is considered a foul. Instruct the offense to yell foul loudly on each touch. So this is a great prevent hacking drill as well. The next step is to allow the offense body movement to protect the ball and then to allow pivoting. In the pivoting drills, make sure the defense moves with the feet, not the arms, to get the ball. In this drill, you will need to yell and yell at the defense to move their feet, because most players are in the habit of reaching, not moving. Again, we are overdoing things to get the maximum benefit. However, don't forget the initial purpose of these drills, touch. So make sure players are touching properly before emphasizing other skills. The release of any shot is simply a flick of the wrist. Work on the wrist in a comfortable position. Make sure arms do not move. Practicing overhead is a more realistic position for shooting as well as passing. The #1 shooting problem for both beginners and pros is stiff wrist. Beginners and poor shooters need to loosen up. Experienced professionals and good shooters need to keep loose. The first exercise, which may be quite difficult, will be just to loosen up, jiggle the hands and wrist. Players need to do this every day before shooting practice. In a few weeks, players will regularly loosen up without much prodding. Make sure players juggle with the elbows straight, because elbows need to be near straight on the shot. Also watch for players shaking their arms instead of their wrists. The next step is flicking wrists at the side. When flicking, again, make sure the elbows are straight. The palms face backward, knuckles forward. Flick the wrist and hand forward and up, then let it come back naturally. In the future, I'm just going to say wrist, not hand. Players will make these mistakes. The first one that I already mentioned is that players will bend the arms. Another is that players will use the arms, not the wrists, to do the flicking. Other exercises will help cure this problem. The biggest problem, of course, is that the wrists, fingers, and hand stiffen up. If you hold the player's arm and shake, you will be able to feel the stiffness. Tell them to loosen up. Don't use the arms. You may need to do this several times with each player before they get the idea. Another big problem is that the hand should look like a claw, not a piece of cardboard. The claw and the touching exercises help with this as well. Yet another problem is that players will flick to the sides instead of straight forward and back. The key, though, is to flick upward at least 90 degrees without using the arms. Flicking the wrist upward gets the wrist back to simulate the starting shot position. Letting the wrist come forward naturally is the release of the shot. Don't expect players to perfect this movement and the preceding ones in a day. As a matter of fact, players tire in a minute or two. So initially, repeat this exercise several times each practice and assign players homework outside of practice. An effective method that forces players to flick without using the arms is to hold one arm with the other. This isolates wrist motion. Make sure the motion is back and forth, not side to side. Notice also how far the wrist is moving on the flick back. Look for the clawed hand and looseness as well. Again, don't expect players to get it in one day or even a week. Be persistent, keep at it every day. After 3 weeks, even your most problematic player will turn around. Now players are ready to put their arms in an actual shooting or passing position. Hands overhead, elbows straight, palms facing forward. Now flick back, allowing the wrist to come forward. Again, look for these mechanics. Looseness of the hand and wrist, flick back far enough, flick back not side to side. Hand shaped like a claw, arms stationary, not moving. Arms straight, not bent. Practice with both hands because players need to learn to shoot, at least short shots, and pass with either hand. The flick up or Statue of Liberty drill is the most helpful and also the most difficult. It allows players to work on all aspects of shooting technique, touch, release, extension, as well as body alignment. Players often need 5 to 10 days of practice before getting the idea, so be patient. Practice 15 minutes a day initially. In a few weeks, practice time will decrease to minutes or less per day. In any case, you need to watch players like a hawk. To start, raise the shooting arm straight up. Keep the elbow straight, not bent. Initially, tell players to lock the elbow so it will not bend. Eventually, the elbow needs to be slightly bent. However, keep the arm as straight as possible throughout this exercise. Next, bend the wrist back as far as possible. If it's not back far enough, then do wrist work. Claw the hand, bounce the ball on the finger ends. Overdo it. Now bring the elbow inward towards the nose. Everything will go out of whack here. The wrist as well as the shoulder tends to twist around or towards the side. To correct this, instruct the player to twist the wrist back to the forward direction. It's a good idea to add this instruction to the list. We'll do that in a minute. Then, bring the arm of the turned shoulder inward across the body or use it to push up the shooting elbow. Do whatever works best. In either case, this helps twist the body back into alignment. This may look like torture, like you are twisting a player into a pretzel. It is not. However, you can tell players how much you like torturing them at this point. Make sure that the elbow does not come forward too much. You will routinely need to push it up. Again, the more difficulty a player has with this drill, the more it will eventually help. Eventually is 2 to 3 weeks max. Players with horrendous technique need lots of help, whereas better shooters adopt more quickly. In either case, the result will be permanent, good shooting technique. Finally, instruct players to flick the ball up 2 inches, not 6 inches or 2 feet. This demonstrates control of the ball. The ball should have a backspin. Don't tell players to put a backspin on the ball. If they flick properly, they will naturally have this spin. Why is this spin important? 2 reasons. 1, backspin slows the ball down when it hits the rim, thus giving the shot more of a chance. And 2, backspin shows that the release is proper. Make sure players catch the ball on their fingertips, set up to shoot again, then flick. Don't let players continue to do this incorrectly. Have players continue this drill just long enough for you to get a good look at what each player is doing. You might just push up elbows and bring arms over as you go down the line the first time. Don't yet spend much time on perfecting things. There's little chance that they will do this all correctly the first or second time. Now start over. Go step by step again, add a few steps, help players with each step. Arms straight up, wrist back, ball on finger ends, elbow to nose. Raise elbow, twist wrist straight. Move the non-shooting hand across the body or use it to push up the elbow. Flick the ball up 2 inches. After a minute, start over. I will repeat this once more, adjusting directions, as you should, based on what players do. 1, arm straight up. 2, wrist back. 3, ball on finger ends. 4, elbow to nose. Now correct alignment by 5, twisting wrist straight. And shortly she will 6, move the non-shooting hand across the body, pushed up the elbow. And 7, raise the elbow. And 8, flick the ball up 2 inches. Because this exercise is difficult to practice without someone watching, group players in twos so one can closely watch and assist the other. Assign this exercise as homework to each group to get maximum improvement in the shortest time. A player should release the shot nearly 2 feet directly overhead. Shoot the ball straight up overhead. Completely extend using the wrist only. Shoot off the backboard from as close as possible. The shoot-up drill forces a player to extend directly overhead, just as the previous flick-up exercise. Make sure the ball goes straight up, not forward or back or to the sides. 3 to 5 feet is fine at first. You only need to do this drill for a minute. Players should catch their own shot without moving. Watch for squaring up problems, either the shooting shoulder moving forward or the non-shooting shoulder moving back. In the shoot-up high drill, players shoot as high as they can. The objective is to use the legs, not the arms. Watch for players arming it up. Do this for a minute. I think this is a good warm-up drill. The 1-inch shot forces players to extend and shoot with their wrist. Players with technique problems, no shooters in particular, have great difficulty doing this. Players set up with their forehead directly under the rim. Don't let players back up, even though they try. Use a marker for back-of-foot placement. Believe it or not, every player will master this drill within a few days.
Good. Oh, good. That's a good shot.
Players think success is making the shot. However, look for extension and wrist movement, not whether or not they make the shot. Make sure to tell players when they do well, even though they miss the rim. A player can shoot a 1-foot shot at 3 different levels, 3 different ways. At the technique level, players take their time, set up, extend, then shoot. At the practice level, players just shoot. At the game level, players must set up quickly because of defensive pressure. This exercise is at the technique level. First, make sure players shoot from 1 foot, not 3 feet. Tell them to take their time, extend, flick the wrist, and use the legs as well. Explain that they can think only on technique level drills. Slow is good. Players shoot 2 to 10 shots from the right, then center using the backboard, then left. Shooting off the backboard from the center position forces players to both extend more and use more wrist motion. If there are no problems, then repeat with the other hand. The number of shots taken depends on the time available. On their own, each player should shoot at least 10. Use this drill to diagnose problems with technique. If you see a problem, stop and make the player work on the problem, whether it be wrist, alignment, extension, or whatever. Believe it or not, you are going to run into a weird problem in this drill. Some players will align their bodies incorrectly. These will be deep-seated bad habits, so initially you may need to do some strange things. I instructed this player to move his left foot forward so he could get his shoulders aligned to the shooting direction, the backboard in this case. Remember, don't worry about a player's feet unless they are very far apart, very close, or in a weird position. You want feet in a comfortable position. Pivot work will help a player with a foot placement problem. However, the shoulders and chest must be squared up properly to the shooting direction. Here a player is squared up to the backboard. Now the player is squared up to shoot directly over the rim. I recently noticed that people taking the old one-handed stab shot are not squared up. A right-hander has the left shoulder go back, just like in the Statue of Liberty drill, putting him or her way out of alignment. Unfortunately, too many players shoot this way without knowing it. Let's closely look at the shot of several players to identify common problems. Some players look tentative every second they have the ball. One reason is that they have poor balance. Pivoting practice is the cure. Remember, every shot involves a pivot. Another reason players often look tentative is that they do not properly control the ball. The hand should be clawed, fingers spread apart, and finger ends touching the ball. Handling the ball properly gives more control for shooting and passing, as well as makes rebounding, catching, and picking up loose balls easier. These players are nose shooters. They release the ball in front of their head instead of extending overhead. Most players get into this problem at an early age, then just stay with the technique. Most men will grow out of the habit as they grow larger and stronger. However, everyone can maximize their shooting potential if they practice properly. Notice also that nose shooters are often not squared up to the shot direction. The shooting shoulder is forward, the other shoulder is back. High school and older men often nose shoot for another reason: stiff and inflexible wrists. The two biggest, no pun intended, well-known offenders in the pros are Wilt and Shaq. Wrist work will eventually cure this most difficult problem. Then players can extend, flicking the wrist, not needing to use the arms. The blue player's technique changes as he moves away from the basket. Notice that his arm movement is more horizontal the further he moves from the basket. This common problem can be avoided if players practice close till they develop better technique. Practicing technique exercises every day not only helps to cure each shooting problem, but also ensures a consistent technique.